Welcome to Dictators v Democrats. This is the weekly roundup in the War on Democracy, dated the 10th of November 2025. On this program, we go over some of the news that's occurred in the past week in the global fight between democracy and authoritarianism. If you like this kind of work, please do like, share, subscribe, hit the little bell icon thing, and help spread the word, because the more this channel grows, the more people we can get fighting on the side of the free. So what have we got this week? Well, we've got a carrier launch in China, indicative of enormous growth of China's military-industrial complex. We've got Thailand scrapping a ceasefire agreement that had taken place between them and Cambodia. And we've got a possible end to the US government shutdown that has crippled the federal agencies around the United States and cost the economy billions since the 1st of October this year. But firstly, we're going to get onto the Chinese front. And China has just launched its most advanced aircraft carrier yet, the Fujian, in a grand commissioning ceremony watched by none other than Chinese Premier and dictator Xi Jinping. The ship is China's third aircraft carrier equipped with advanced electromagnetic catapults. The only other carrier in the world that has those is the US Gerald R. Ford, that can launch aircraft at a rapid pace. Its entry into China's fleet is another milestone on China's breakneck naval buildup. The People's Liberation Army Navy, or PLAN, now boasts the world's largest navy in terms of ship count, with 234 warships to the US Navy's 219, according to the Center for Strategic and International Studies. It's the first fully domestically designed and built carrier out of the PRC. The other two, the Liaoning and the Shandong, are Soviet designs. While the PLAN does not match the US Navy in terms of tonnage or likely capability, its commissioning shows just how seriously China is taking its military buildup. And look at this graph from CSIS. As you can see, between 2015 and 2019, there's been this enormous spike in ship launches, and it doesn't look like that's going to slow down anytime soon. And this growth is squarely aimed in three directions. First, a possible military action to invade Taiwan. Second, pushing US influence out of the South China Sea, the infamous 9-dash line. Of course, China claims a vast majority of it. And third, securing the Chinese Communist Party's role and interests at home itself. Now, while these carriers and the rest of the fleet almost certainly do not match the US in terms of capability, they undoubtedly further the above goals. Raymond Kuo, the director of the RAND Corporation's Taiwan Policy Initiative, said, quote, US carriers are much more capable, but part of the issue is we are now much more vulnerable to anti-ship missiles, so having a lighter carriers with fewer personnel can be an advantage. And he added that it, quote, severely complicates Taiwanese defensive plans, as Taiwan's plans have long included moving fighter aircraft and others to more protected parts of the island, and the carriers could help China outflank these defenses. As for the third point on the above trident, the CCP is experiencing what all economies with meteoric growth do: a plateau. The same happened in Japan and South Korea. However, the CCP's rule has long depended on this authoritarian Faustian pact with the Chinese people. If you accept no political freedom and no political life, then we will give you economic growth and your children will grow up to be more prosperous than you. Now, that path is becoming somewhat winding and thorny. So they are focusing on nationalism, reclaiming China's position as the Middle Kingdom or all under heaven, which it has historically in its idea of itself held. And to achieve that, they need a large, effective military that wins short, victorious wars. Taiwan, though, and certainly the US Navy, are tough nuts to crack. And they should keep the experience of the Russian Federation in their disastrous invasion of Ukraine in mind when building ships and rattling sabers, because if you bite too hard, you can break your teeth. Now, that does not mean that we in the democracies should be complacent. We should take this threat seriously. And at the same time, we should encourage the Chinese not to engage in this. Because if we withdraw from this global order of peace, of rules, and of trade, then you destroy wealth and you destroy lives at an enormous rate. And it looks like that's the path that they're going down. Sticking with the theme of conflict, on the Thai-Cambodian front, Thailand has suspended its implementation of a peace deal with Cambodia just 2 weeks after US President Donald Trump presided and pushed for it and counted it amongst his number of wars ended during his premiership. The announcement came after soldiers were injured in a landmine explosion near the Cambodian border in Sisaket province. Cambodia says it remains committed to the deal, which was signed after border clashes which killed more than 40 in July. And Thai Prime Minister Anutin Chanvirakul told a news conference that he agreed with the decision, saying, quote, "The security threat has not actually decreased." The border disputes between Cambodia and Thailand are old. They date back more than a century now to when the border was drawn following the end of the French occupation of Cambodia. And it's just another example of how the wounds of imperialism are cutting deep across the world. And onto the American front, government shutdowns are a truly bizarre aspect of the American system, and we may be coming to the end of the longest one in US history. On October the 1st, Congress failed to pass the required appropriations legislation and no stopgap continuing resolution was adopted. This means that under the Anti-Deficiency Act, federal agencies cannot spend money, including on wages, if no appropriation has been made. That means that federal workers, including troops, go without pay or are furloughed, with several US troops serving abroad reportedly being told to go to food banks in the country that they are stationed. And the cost of these is enormous. Reports say that it could cost the US billions of dollars each week and reduce GDP growth by an estimated 0.1 of a percentage figure, an enormous figure when taking the size of the US economy into account. The shutdown was started over a key policy difference over healthcare subsidies. Democrats wanted an extension of the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare's tax credits, while Republicans refused. And a compromise bill is currently on the floor and being voted on, may have been passed by the time that you see this video, that does not guarantee the aforementioned tax credits, but does ensure a future vote upon them. Zooming out a little bit, this demonstrates a real problem with American political life. As has been said repeatedly on a number of different channels by a number of different commentators, compromise is getting harder and harder to reach, while the executive under Trump is running roughshod over established precedent and in some cases law, with very little balancing or being held to account by a Republican-controlled Congress. And an end to this seems unlikely to come anytime soon. And finally, on to terra firma. I'm going to show you a picture here and ask you what is missing from it. It is from COP30 this Thursday. No Trump, no Xi, no Modi. The leaders of three of the largest nations and largest polluters on Earth failed to attend the COP30 Climate Summit in Brazil. The head of the think tank Loom and former climate activist Joss Garman said to the BBC, quote, "The golden era for multilateral diplomacy is over." And he added, quote, "Climate politics is now more than ever about who captures and controls the economic benefits of new energy industries." Now, it's clear that leaders of the greatest nations around the world have tabled the climate crisis. Trump is investing heavily in fossil fuels, saying to the UN General Assembly, quote, "This climate change is the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world." And he added, quote, "If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail." He has since threatened punitive tariffs on countries who invest in renewables and avoid buying US oil and gas. So their own policies on their own energy and their own decisions. It's imperialistic to say the least. China does, and I hesitate usually to compliment the Chinese, to say when they're doing well, but I will when they are, is moving in a better direction on this. In 2023, clean tech drove roughly 40% of China's economic growth, and really we should be doing the same. And this deepening split in the climate debate is exacerbated by this trend in international diplomacy to attempt to keep Trump on side. There's one source in a developed country told the BBC, quote, of all the things they're most terrified of, the biggest is being seen to criticize Trump. And even investing in green technology is being seen to criticize Trump. And he has no grasp of science, and even if explained to him, he's unlikely to care. So as the world looks to be rocketing past the stated 1.5 degrees Celsius upper limit for global temperature rising, the world appears to be doing less and less. The children of 2050 may have every right to despise and condemn the leaders of 2025. And finally, on to other fronts. Onto the Indian front. Protests have erupted in Delhi, demanding action on the city's enormous pollution problem, while several people have reportedly been killed in an explosion that we don't know is related, unlikely to be, near the Red Fort metro station. On the Portuguese front, thousands have protested over government plans to reform labour laws, making it easier to fire people and limit compassionate leave. And on the Hungarian front, Trump has granted Hungary a 1-year exemption from secondary sanctions for buying Russian energy, another of Trump's favours to one of his more authoritarian-minded friends, Viktor Orban. And finally, onto the cinematic front, I watched Heretic with Hugh Grant the other night. And well, that guy's mostly done rom-coms. He plays a really dastardly villain by basically playing the same character in just a completely different context. Really good film. Recommend you all to watch it. But that is that for this week's roundup. Please tell me in the comments below if I missed anything and join the conversation. Thank you very much indeed for watching to the end. And if you enjoyed this, please do like, share and subscribe. This channel is growing apace, but we can always make it happen faster. Thank you very much indeed. Always remember that democracy is non-negotiable. Goodbye.